Hello, and we are continuing down the top 1,000 of Board Game Geek, going century by century, choosing 10 games from every set of 100, and it's time to talk about 400 to 301.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph, and that's right, we're going through the top 1,000 games. Today we're talking about our 10 favorite games, just our personal 10 favorite, from 400 to 301 on Board Game Geek as the time of filming this, because they do change.
These things
sometimes
change.
In a day, this list will probably be different, just because things pop in and out of the list. Although now we're getting close to the top, things aren't moving quite. It's hard to get to this point of
you got to wade through
1,000.
like thousands and thousands of games to
Indeed.
do it. Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and get into our top 10 games from this 100. Let's get to it. Our number 10 in this 100 is here because it's beautiful, and that's Carpe Diem. It's not here because of that. It's not a very good looking game, but it's very, very fun. This is Stefan Feld's game where you're building out like an estate or something. I don't know. There's like villas and vineyards and stuff, you know, general Euro stuff. But it's got this really cool tile selection system where you have your little person, your little meeple, and you are going to be essentially going across. You can basically bounce around, and wherever you go across, that's where you're gonna get a tile from. So you're kind of bouncing around. I think in the new version, you're actually just going around in a circle, but it ultimately ends up being the same thing. But you're getting these tiles, and then you're putting them in your little estate, and you're essentially trying to complete things. So if you start with like a cap, and this cap is like a farm, and then you can have like a little middle farm area, and then another cap. Once that's full, you then will get, in this case, chickens from your farm. And so you want to close off things. That's how you're gonna get these resources. And then at the end of every round, you're gonna be scoring. And the scoring in this game is kind of interesting because there's this grid of cards that are set up at the beginning of the game. And when you score something every round, you're gonna place your disc in between two of the scoring cards, and you have to score both of them. And if you don't score both of them, something bad stuff happens, basically. So you're trying to figure out which ones you want to score, which ones you can score the best. But the thing is, once someone's disc is there, no one else can go there. So basically, once like a certain dual card scoring thing is taken, it's done. And so you're trying to plan ahead and score certain things, and then if someone takes it, you're like, well, okay, I can't do that anymore, but maybe I can do it over here and score these two cards instead. It's very, very interesting. I would love to see this game basically rethemed, because it's just a very boring theme in my opinion, but ultimately the game itself is very, very fun. Good Stefan Feld, point salad goodness. Like it a lot. It's number 10.
So our number 9 is Abyss. It's a game from Bruno Cathala that has some of the most kind of evocative art that we've seen in board games, of this really cool undersea world of like politics and intrigue and whatnot. I think what's really cool about this game is it's ultimately not very complicated. You are kind of trying to collect cards that are going to have different influence amounts in these kind of 5 factions that are, refer to the kind of 5 groups of people with underwater interests and stuff, and these sea folk. And you're trying to collect these cards, and you have to, if you're going to try to collect cards, you have to first offer up a card that comes up to everybody else around the table first. And if they want it, they got to pay you a pearl for it. Pearls and monies, which is just so great. And then once you have enough money, you can kind of influence these politicians. They might come with instant benefits, ongoing powers, and they're going to kind of give you a certain amount of victory points at the end of the game. There's a little bit of set collection in this game. It does a lot of fun little things, but none of it's overwhelming or complicated, and it gives you a really cool game with amazing art direction that's pretty accessible. So that's number 9, Abyss.
Number 8 is Longshot the Dice Game. This game was actually a bit of a surprise for us. We thought the game would be fun, but we actually really, really like Longshot the Dice Game, and so do other people considering how high it is up on this list. So Longshot the Dice Game is based off of Longshot, which is a game about horse racing, and this is a roll and write version of Longshot. And so basically what's going to be happening is you're going to be rolling out a D8, because there are 8 horses, and whatever horse gets rolled, that horse is going to move a certain amount that's going to be rolled on a D6, either 1, 2, or 3 spaces. But every single horse will also move other horses. So on, like, let's say the 4 horse, you might also have to move the 6 horse and like the 3 horse. And there's a couple different things you can then do. Everything you're doing matters for whatever horse was rolled. So if you rolled the 4 horse, you can either mark off a 4 on like the concession stand, Or you can bet on the 4-horse, or you can buy the 4-horse a jersey or a helmet or something like that. You can basically do things with that horse, and you're betting on these horses. You can also purchase these horses, and then if they win, you're going to gain money. But ultimately, what you're doing is you're putting bets on horses, hoping that those horses win. And it's just a really, really fun game. It plays like, I think 1 to 8, and it plays really, really good at all player counts. It's also one of those games where a lot of times one horse will get out ahead, but then inevitably they just hit a wall. And a lot of times the long shot, the horses that aren't doing very well in the race, a lot of times run up at the very end, and it always ends up being a really fun, close race. So Long Shot the Dice game is our number 8. We really, really enjoy this one.
Number 7 is one of our favorite racing games. This is Downforce from Restoration Games. This is an up to 6-player game where you're kind of doing a Formula 1 race and you're betting on the outcome of that race. So depending on the player count, you're always going to have all the cars in play. You might just own more than one of them if it's a lower player count game. You're always going to own at least one car, though. That's kind of you got a vested interest in, because if they come in first place, you're going to win more money. But as the race goes, you're playing out these cards that are going to move multiple cars. You're going to try to move them in such a way that your car gets ahead and everyone else kind of gets bottlenecked and gets into a traffic jam and falls behind. But if that's the case where your car isn't doing so well, at 3 points in the game, you're going to make bets on who you think is going to win the race. Now, that could be your car, that could be an opponent's car. It depends on how it all goes, but you can make bets, and if you're correct and they come in first, second, or third place, you're going to get some money at the end of the game. So we love that there's different ways to essentially score points in the game. You don't just have to win the race. It is very advantageous for you to do if you can, but sometimes the cars you have are going to just help other cars more, so you almost form like a little alliance with the green car, for example, as you try to push them over the line, because you've made some timely bets in their behalf. So it's just a really fun racing game. It's quick. It doesn't take too long, and I just love the kind of little tense rivalries and team ups that happen in that game. That's Downforce.
Number 6 is Furnace. We always kind of have a tough relationship with games that are small, quick engine builders. We always really want to like them, like Splendor or Century Spice Road, but a lot of times we just end up kind of not, because they're just, I don't know, for some reason they just don't do it for us. But we really like Furnace, and I think the reason why we like Furnace is because it's got this really cool bidding mechanic. This is a normal kind of engine builder where you're getting cards. Those cards will produce resources. You can use those resources to activate other cards. It's just very combo-y, very engine buildery. But in this case, how you get the cards is through bidding. You have discs numbered 1 through 4, and when you put them down on a card, you're saying, I'm bidding 3 on this. Someone else can then bid 4, put their 4 disc down, and if they do, they will win the card. But above every card are there going to be resources like steel, coal, oil, things like that. General Industrial Revolution kind of stuff. And if you don't win the bid, whatever disc you put there, you get to get those resources multiplied by the disc number. So if it was like 2 steel and you put down a 3, you would then get 6 steel because it's 2 times 3. So a lot of times when you're bidding on these cards, you don't actually want to win them. You're just trying to get outbid so that you can get the resources that are above that card. And that little bit of auction, that little bit of bidding is just really, really interesting. It makes the game kind of has a little bit more going on, and makes it so that we enjoy this kind of very quick engine builder. Because if it was just the engine building, we probably wouldn't like it. But that little bit of bidding there makes it really, really fun. I love Furnace.
So number 5 is a game that we think scales super duper well because it's an area control game. This is Small World. We've had this game since the very beginning of our kind of collecting games portion of this hobby. So we got this one really early on. This is a game that takes different fantasy races, and you're going to mix up random powers that they have, which is going to augment how they score, what they can do, where they can move around on the map, and things like that. The thing that's really great about this game is if you're playing a 2-player game, 3, 4, whatever player count you're playing, you have a different map that you're playing on. So it's always a tight, contentious battle for space on the board, which is what you want in an area control game. So we think this one does a great job of just making sure it's really playable at all player counts. There's also a billion expansions, all sorts of races, all sorts of powers, and the combinations that get made up, we have like flying gnomes and stuff like that, are just really fun and create juicy, interesting decisions. And you have to basically take one of your fantasy races as far as you can and then send them into decline and bring out new troops onto the map with a new fantasy race and power combo. It's just a super duper fun game. Again, really kind of simple to understand in terms of how you place out those troops and stuff like that, and just endless combinations to explore.
Our number 4 is that praise be Phil Walker Harding. Praise be to Phil Walker Harding always. This is going to be Barenpark. Barenpark is really, really fun. We like Barenpark quite a bit. It's kind of, I mean, Phil Walker Harding's been around for a while, but this is kind of, it feels like one of the starts of the polyomino tile kind of era that we've been in ever since. This and Patchwork seem like the games that really brought polyomino tiling to the forefront of gaming. So in this game, you are building out a bear park, a bear zoo. So there's a couple different kinds of bears, like koala bears, which aren't bears, they're marsupials, panda bears, polar bears, and I think goby bears. And you are you're drafting these tiles. These tiles are going to be different enclosures and different habitats for those animals. And you are trying to fill in your various boards. And it's very Phil Walker Harding, where whenever you put down a tile, you're going to be covering up symbols. Those symbols allow you to get other stuff. So if you cover up like a wheelbarrow symbol, that allows you to get like another simple tile. If you cover up a crane, you can get one of the big enclosures. So you're covering stuff up, getting things, and you're trying to fill in your board mostly as quickly as possible, because whenever you fill in your board, you're going to get a bear statue, which is going to be worth points. So you're trying to do that faster than anywhere else. And there are also some goals that you're going for, some kind of public racing goals that you're all racing for. It's just really, really good. This game's a classic, been around for a while. It's kind of like one of those modern classics. I don't think it's ever going to go away because it's just smooth, it's good. It's a great like next level game, not necessarily quite a gateway game, but kind of the gateway plus next level. It's perfect for that. It's just really, really fun. We absolutely love Barenpark. And that praise be though.
So number 3 is Nusfjord. We are big fans of Uwe Rosenberg. That is probably not a surprise to anyone at this point. And Nusfjord is a really fun one that we actually just got recently. It's been out of print. I think a new one's coming, but it's been out of print and not super available. So it'd been like a long time since I played it. Played it once way back in the day, and I finally got to a chance to play it again. This one is one that we really enjoy because it's an Uwe Rosenberg game in the kind of classic sense where there's a lot of negatives on your board that you're trying to cover up. There's worker placement, all these kind of trademarks feeding people in the game that you see in Uwe Rosenberg games, but Nusfjord is super duper quick. So it gives you a lot of those feelings of bigger box Uwe games. And the time that it takes to play Nusfjord is super duper fast. You're trying to ultimately build out kind of a fleet of ships to go fishing. Fishing is kind of a big center piece of the game. There are these elders you can make use of, but you got to feed those elders for them to kind of impart their wisdom upon you. And then you're trying to build buildings and kind of manage how forested your board is, which means covered up with these kind of tiles, which helps get rid of negatives. But you can then kind of harvest from those tiles to get wood and stuff and gain money to buy more buildings and stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff to explore, but it's just really cool to take all those things that you'd expect and bring it down to a really, really kind of almost filler plus game, although the setup takes longer than that. So that is Nusfjord, one that we really enjoy and are kind of just sinking our teeth into finally.
Number 2 is a game that I think is going to end up being in the top 100, and this is Planet Unknown. Planet Unknown is a really fun polyomino tile laying game, and this is a game that's really great because it's all simultaneous. You have a planet board, and that planet board you are going to be terraforming with different types of landscape, and those landscapes are going to be drafted from a central depot, the Susan. It's a lazy Susan. And on this lazy Susan, it's constantly turning, and the active player will get to turn it so whatever depot they want is in front of them, and each depot has 2 choices of polyomino tiles on them. And then once they chose, like, yep, this is where it's going to be, everyone then will have a depot that's pointing towards them. And then everyone gets to draft one of the 2 tiles that's available to them and place it into their planet. So the good thing is whether you're playing this game with 2 players or 6 players, it doesn't really change the time because everyone's doing it simultaneously. Because once the active player chooses the depot they want, everyone else is then set, and the only thing you're waiting for is for people to actually put in their tiles and do all their stuff. But this game is super combo-tastic because all these different terrains have a corresponding track. When you place them into your planet, you will then bump up that track. And a lot of times those tracks will allow you to bump up another track or unlock this asymmetric ability or do this or do that or put out a rover and move this. And you get to do all these different combo-tastic things. It's really, really fun. And one thing I like about this game is you have a basic corporation and a basic planet, but there are asymmetric corporations, 10 of them. There's also like 10 asymmetric planets, and everyone can just play what they want. You could have 5 people playing the basic corporation and the basic planet, and then 1 person playing the asymmetric corporations and an asymmetric planet, and it doesn't matter because you're not affecting each other. So you can kind of bring people in all different kind of skill levels because you can just change up whatever you want. It's just really, really fun. This game, I think once this becomes like really widely available, because it kind of hasn't been yet, I think it's going to absolutely blow the roof off. People really love this game. We love it too. It's outstanding.
Number 1 from this section of Board Game Geek is a highly underrated game in our opinion. This is Ginkopolis. Of course, it's not that lowly rated. It's in the top 1,000 Board Game Geek, but this is one that we finally got a chance to play. Steph, who contributes to Board Game Geek, and you know their main mission is to play all of the games of all time, basically, is a big fan of Ginkopolis and one who championed this game to us for years before we finally got a chance to come across it and play. Ginkopolis has completely captured my attention ever since. It's a game that I think is, and Nick of course agrees, I think it's incredibly elegant. I think it's beautiful in that it gives you an engine building game, a card drafting game, tile placement, area control, all these types of games kind of in one, while using very limited, I guess, pieces, components, and things like that. There's only 3 types of actions. Those three types of actions will help you build this city and kind of claim areas of it. There is only resources where you get to claim stuff. You can get victory points, or you can get more tiles to place out into the city. So there's 3 resource types, 3 action types, and you get to do all this stuff with just those few pieces. I think it's brilliant. I think it's incredibly clever. That is Ginkopolis. If you get a chance to try it, it's just wild to me, and I can't get over it.
Man, it's getting hard.
It's getting hard
That's
the
already.
cliche every time, but it really is getting very difficult. We had to leave several games off of this list. We could do a supplemental list.
Yeah.
That's not the challenge. It's about only choosing 10 from every 100.
Indeed. Now, down in the comments below, if you've been following along with this whole time, people have been putting in their 10 from each 100. Put your top 10 from this 100 down in the comments below. We love seeing people's lists. It's been a fun experiment. We're getting close to the end, too.
I know. It's going to be a sad thing to do, but then we're going to go through the alphabet, so we're going to get to go through a whole other list. But that is 400 to 301.
Indeed.
Let us know what your picks are, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.